The Hello Kitty murder. This one is so messed up, but you guys wanted to see it, so let's get into it. This case surrounds a woman called Phan Man Ye, and I'm really sorry if I'm saying any of these names wrong. It is set in Hong Kong, and I'm trying my best. Phan was abandoned as a baby and placed into an orphanage. Though unfortunately she would never get adopted, and she grew out of it at age 15. So eventually she turned to addiction and sex work. She would end up marrying one of her clients, but it was said to be a very abusive relationship. They had a son together, and this is when she decided she wanted to get her life together a bit more. So she left her husband and started working as a hostess in a nightclub. All she wanted was to be able to afford a better life for her and her son. But it was said that the worst of the worst people in Hong Kong went to this nightclub. She would end up meeting a man called Chan. Chan was a pimp, but also a drug dealer, and the two got in some sort of relationship. He was her access to drugs. But he was also part of the Chinese mafia, apparently. And she would make the worst decision of her life when one day, out of desperation, she decided to steal money out of his wallet. Unfortunately for her, it did not take long for him to realize that the money was gone, and he quickly confronted her, demanding the money back. But it was already gone because she had spent it. That's when Chan decided that she had to pay in another way, in a truly disgusting and awful way. This man was truly twisted. So Chan got his 2 associates and his 14-year-old girlfriend. This man was 34 and he had a 14-year-old girlfriend? Anyways, altogether they kidnapped Phan and they kept her imprisoned in an apartment. At first, the idea was that she'd pay her debt through sex work. But what it actually turned into was so sadistic. Over the next few weeks, Phan would experience unimaginable pain. She just suffered beyond comprehension. It was awful. They starved her and burnt her feet to the point where she couldn't walk, therefore she couldn't escape. It was said that they hung her from the wall and used her as basically a punching bag, and that all these men alongside this 14-year-old girl would take part. This is nowhere near the end of the story, so make sure you come back for part 2. Thanks for watching. Part 2 of the Hello Kitty murder. As I said in the last video, the way they treated Phan and tortured her was beyond belief. And the things they did to her were just inhumane and vile. I'm not going to go into detail, but it's gross. At one point they made her ingest her own feces. Due to these conditions, Phan would end up dying on the 15th of April, 1999. And this, my friends, is where you learn why this case is called the Hello Kitty case. So these guys and 14-year-old girl had a body on their hands, and so they dismembered her in the bathtub and boiled the bones. Some of it was fed to dogs and some was thrown out. So vile. But you might be wondering, what did they do with her head? They boiled her skull and put it in a Hello Kitty stuffed animal. Why? Now, they could have gotten away with this, but you're probably like, Meg, how did they get caught? Let me tell you. It wasn't long before the 14-year-old girl was just overtaken by guilt. She felt so guilty that she started having really severe nightmares about the whole thing. She had these nightmares so often that she actually thought she was being haunted by the ghost of Phan. This fear and guilt led her to go to the police and confess everything, which then led the police to the Hello Kitty doll with her head inside of it. They then arrested the 3 boys. But they weren't charged with murder, they were charged with manslaughter. This is because the only thing left of her was her skull, which means they couldn't determine her cause of death. Due to all the other charges they faced, like abducting someone, hiding a body, all the boys were given a life sentence, but one of them would actually only get 18 years because apparently he had less of a part in it. But the 14-year-old girl got absolutely no punishment at all. This was because she gave a testimony and she was a minor, but no punishment? So her alongside another guy are actually out there right now. And that is the story of the Hello Kitty murder. This story literally has me shook. Like, how did she not get any punishment? Like, I understand she was only 14 and maybe she was being like influenced by these grown men, but still, what? That's all for today, and let me know what you guys want me to cover next.